While I was working on this video, I never would have thought that I would see the news that Akira Toriyama passed away. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everything you brought to my childhood. If it wasn't for Dragon Ball, I wouldn't be as invested into anime as I am right now. I remember waking up in the morning, eating breakfast, and turning on the TV just to watch Dragon Ball Z before going to school. It made my whole day. I still talk about Dragon Ball with my parents, especially with my dad. He would just laugh at how funny Master Roshi was. Anyways, thank you for letting me create these amazing memories with your anime. Thank you for everything. So we all know how important Dragon Ball has been to the Hispanic community, with restaurants filled with pictures or art of Goku to parades on the street. It had me thinking, how did it become this popular? I mean, the only anime that Hispanics really know is Dragon Ball, but they don't even call it Dragon Ball. It's more like they only call it Goku. Dragon Ball has become a staple for the Hispanic community to the point where they are willing to spend a good chunk of money for anything related to this anime. Even when working on this video, I started to notice that the places I went, I would see Hispanic people dripped out with Dragon Ball merch, or shelves of figures that would mainly filled with Goku, Trunks, or Vegeta would be empty if not on back order. For that reason, I wanted to see why the anime is insanely popular in these Latin countries and not as much in the US as you would think it is compared to them. I will talk about how the anime Dragon Ball became such a huge hit for these Latin countries, as well as some other animes that were known, and the history of how these animes became a big part of the community. I know I can't talk about how it became popular for every country since most of them could be different. I'll just assume that it would be similar to what my parents experienced or from what I gathered on the internet. We all know Dragon Ball, right? It's not like you don't know, since I'm pretty sure that Dragon Ball has become somewhat of a pop culture, if not it is a pop culture around the world. You can say that the anime is the grandfather of all animes that led the shonen manga route that we know of today. Anyways, if you don't know what Dragon Ball is, I'll just do a little speedrun history and description of it. The Dragon Ball series began in 1984 with it being serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump. You know, the one that has the best manga right now. 2 years later, it got an anime adaptation only for Japan. The US never really got an English dubbed version of Dragon Ball until like a few years later when Dragon Ball Z was already becoming a thing. They said screw it, they weren't going to focus on Dragon Ball, instead focus on Dragon Ball Z. That's why most of the people in the US only remembered watching Dragon Ball Z and it being their favorite one. Then somewhat in between 1992 to 1996, it finally had a Spanish dub. The opening in Spanish is really catchy, and now I understand why Hispanic people would enjoy singing and loving this song. I don't really know what exact date Dragon Ball aired in Latin America, because some people say 1992 or 1996, so I'll just say it happened around that time. Also, can I say that anime in Latin America is straight fire than anime in the US? All I have to say is 4Kids One Piece. Those who know what I mean understand. Except Kirby, that show was raw when it was airing on 4Kids. Dragon Ball became such a huge success in the Latin countries, making the main character Goku into this national symbol that everyone grew up with. Try showing a picture of Goku to any Hispanic person and they'll instantly recognize him. If you're still confused about what Dragon Ball is, know that it's a bunch of sweaty, ripped dudes who love to fight and scream at the top of their lungs to only change their hair color, making them stronger than before. They also perform dances to merge themselves into better fighters. Yeah, that's all I got for describing the Dragon Ball series. Apparently, it resonated with a majority of children, even adults, giving them hope that they can someday have powers like Goku or perform a Kamehameha. Unlike the rest of the people, I wished I was Trunks. That man is drippy. The anime has so many spin-offs, games, and movies, increasing the popularity and world built around Goku and his friends. Now that you know when Dragon Ball was being aired in Latin America, I think what helped Goku be this iconic symbol was that they essentially grew up with him. They saw the whole journey that Goku had to go through, helping Bulma find the Dragon Balls while growing up with Krillin and learning martial arts from Master Roshi. Also meeting new and long-lasting friends along the way, fighting through everything that was evil and protecting the world. Anime around that time was a completely different experience compared to what was being shown from other studios. Most of the Latin countries would still watch American cartoons, but it just wasn't the same as Dragon Ball or the other animes. American cartoons back then heavily focused on friendly comedic shows and not really anything action related, unless you count the Batman cartoon shows, but it wasn't popular in Latin countries, making Dragon Ball special and one of a kind. Animes in Latin America weren't heavily censored like the ones in the US. In the US, animes didn't have any blood and received less episodes than the original run of episodes the anime had, giving Latin America watchers the full experience of the anime rather than the watered down version of it. If we look at what Toonami was airing, it shows us how many episodes certain animes got left out. Let's be honest, the US hated anime and made fun of anyone that was even remotely mentioning anime. People would basically hide the fact that they were weebs. I still remember that parents thought that Pokemon was this demonic show that made children possessed or something. Yeah, it sounds really stupid, but that actually happened. Another huge anime similar to Dragon Ball's popularity is Candy Candy. This anime was apparently crack to every Hispanic mother that ever lived. If you show them a picture of Candy Candy, they will start singing the anime opening like it was a national anthem. Now, I can't speak for every child in Latin America, but from what I was told, most children had too much free time, allowing them to watch shows or play sports after school. Their school hours were from 7:30 a.m. to 1 or 2 p.m. I'm not too sure about the hours because it depends, and they had at least 2 recesses. I don't understand how the hell they have so many recesses. I barely got one when I was in elementary school. Anyways, the early exposure from these animes, especially Dragon Ball, captured the attention of every child and teenager because it was one of the first animes that was dubbed in Spanish and aired on television. The story and fighting scenes that Dragon Ball provided, with it being about fantasy, martial arts, and adventures, made viewers emotionally invested in the characters and their development throughout the whole story. The way Goku is portrayed in Dragon Ball heavily resonates with the majority of Latin America's population. Goku is this funny, dumb character who loves fighting in order to get stronger than before and does anything to protect his family and friends. Like I said before, Dragon Ball became a staple for the Hispanic community, that there are even parades where people wear Saiyan armor and Goku and Vegeta costumes. I don't think any other country does that. Well, I mean, apart from Japan, since you know they were the ones that made the series. Doing weird things is like their thing, you know? You even have them graduating with different costumes because the college finally lets them. This is kind of raw, I'm not even gonna lie. I would rather graduate with the squad looking like this than to wear a cap and gown. In Mexico, they had watch parties for the final episode of Dragon Ball Super, and they were government sponsored. It became such a huge thing that Japan noticed and had to send a diplomatic notice ordering Mexico to stop them. They said hell no and continued watching it. That's how dedicated and in love they are with Dragon Ball that not even the country Japan can stop them from watching it. Over the years, the anime has continued to be one of the best series in the world. From the US finally making anime mainstream to big celebrities cosplaying, Dragon Ball paved the way for the Western world, especially Latin America, with how they consume anime and making it acceptable for people to enjoy it. Without Dragon Ball, I can confidently say that anime would not have been as big as it is right now. The Hispanic community would not have an iconic symbol to glorify, and I don't even think they would ever be this close with each other, having fun, spending time with family, watching Dragon Ball. The Dragon Ball series will always be remembered as the best and rightfully so. The whole cast, Goku and Vegeta's battle will forever be ingrained into people's heads as an amazing rivalry. I can already see the amount of posts that talk about how Goku can beat anyone and that he can never lose. It's also amazing to think that Dragon Ball Z was the anime that made anime popular in the US. So in the end, the anime was destined to become this big thing that people would enjoy and relate with other mutuals. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you want more of these half-assed videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. See ya.